So I'm here to talk about pun-driven development. And if you do anything with software development, I'm sure you've heard of like test-driven development and domain-driven design, or all these kinds of methodologies about how to develop software the best, like the highest quality, the most productivity. But like, to be honest, that is not at all how I develop software at home. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about that. Um, and so, as a short introduction, um, I like to just describe myself as someone who tricks computers into doing stuff. I like to make small things, share them online. Like sometimes, let's see, uh, sometimes they're just like really small and silly, but I like doing this. I also run this website, neonarcade.games, where I need to hold. I have this website where I share games that I make. And so, for example, I have this game, Snakele. If any of you ever like to play Wordle, but also at the same time are very much in the mood to play Snake, well, then I have the game for you. And like a lot of these games, they're not necessarily good, but I enjoyed making them. And I'm pointing this one out specifically because Snakele, I think, is the project that made me come up with the idea of pun-driven development. Yeah, so when I say I like to do like side projects, I really mean it. This is a screenshot of a projects folder. This is definitely not all the projects that I've done. There's many projects lost to time. Some of these folders actually also are like groups of projects. Like there's a Playdate folder, and that's a bunch of small Playdate projects. And so I do this a lot. And the point is not to brag about what I do, but the point is I spend a lot of time on this. And so for me, it makes sense to think about like what is a good side project? How do I have fun with them? Like especially I also do this at work. Like how can I make this enjoyable outside of work? And I think it's easy to come up with like a list of things that I like in projects. Like I like interesting technical challenges. I like being like in a flow state and just executing and working on something. I like finishing stuff and like having at the end a cool small project to share with people. But I think it's actually pretty hard to make that concrete and like take those things and figure out like, okay, what does it mean for starting a new project? So instead, I want to look at some principles that I use, like to limit and constrain myself when I do projects, and two sets of principles specifically that are pretty big limitations and really shape how I approach projects in my free time. And yeah, so the first time is inspired by my grandma. My grandmother was a very sweet lady who grew up in rural Germany, a family of 3 girls, and she was the only one who got to go to high school. But most importantly for this story is she completely missed the digital revolution. And I don't mean in the sense of like calling the grandson to help install an app on an iPad. No, I mean she actually did not know what an iPad was. She like has seen computers, but pretty quickly decided like, okay, this is just not for me. I'm just going to skip this. And whatever, like the internet, I don't need to know about it. And so, like if she was in the room and someone would start talking about technology, even if she wasn't part of that conversation, like she would get this bewildered look in her eyes. She would throw up her hands and she would like fall back into German and just shout, "Mein lieber Himmel, that is all abracadabra to me." And I can still hear her say that. Um, yeah, she she did have a laptop. Um, there was nothing on there. Like maybe at some point I installed Chrome on there because I can't really let someone live with Internet Explorer. But that's like there was really nothing on there, and she didn't really use it. But as I got older and we would visit, at some point I would start to get bored, and I would start to mess around with this laptop. And I realized one day, um, like I had started this journey of doing side projects as a hobby, and I realized like actually I could do a side project on this computer. Like it has a browser, it has a text editor. Like what more do you really need? Um, and so even when I wasn't at my grandparents, like when I was working on side projects, this became like an idea that I really wanted to pursue. Like if I did a side project, I was thinking about, okay, like if I was doing this side project, could I be doing this on my grandma's computer? And well, what does that look like? Well, let's try to start a project. Well, of course, like right off the bat, this doesn't really work. Like the idea of like developer tools, all kinds of technical things, installing frameworks and libraries, npm or TypeScript just are not available on this computer. So the first conclusion off the bat, like we're not going to use any of that. But then even looking at some of the projects that I was doing at the time, like they had a bunch of subsystems, like they were nicely factored out in all these different files. And I pretty quickly realized, like, actually, this is also, I'm never going to do a project like this on my grandmother's computer. Like, I'm there for a few hours. This is just way too complex. Like, just having all these files and typing out all this boilerplate doesn't make sense for a project that I'm doing there. And so I realized, like, if I really want to do this, I need to like drastically drastically simplify my projects. And what I ended up with is projects that really usually are just two files, like a main project file and a small library file that I would type out every time. And of course, this is an enormous limitation. But over time, I found that this also gave a lot back. Actually, like to the point that this has become my happy place. Like if I want to have fun on a Saturday evening, like this is what I do. I create two files and then I just have a great time. And also, like, by the way, this presentation, two files. And like that's all I like to do. And so what does it give me back? How does this make me happy? Well, first of all, like turns out the thing that I like the least about software development is actually dealing with other people's code and tools. Like all those developer tools, they do like they do help you, but like it's a pain to learn them. They always change, and it's just like frustrating to like have to configure them all the time. So that's nice, not dealing with them. Also, um, the thing that I just said about like writing from scratch these library files made me like it's similar to what Torian said earlier about like if you let ChatGPT write the code that you think you know, you'll actually let those skills atrophy. Like by iterating every time, I really got those skills in my fingers, and I also got to experiment a lot. I tried some really bad ideas about how to approach these problems. And over time, I built up a library of my own of like shortcuts and tricks, and some of them like really bad ideas that I would never try in a production environment, but like work really well for my projects and make me happy. And so yeah, like drastically simplifying my projects has become like something that I actually enjoy doing now. Before we get to the next principle, I have a small confession to make. When I was showing you my projects folder, this isn't just the projects folder. Truly, this is also, and honestly, I don't think it should be surprising, but this is also kind of a project's graveyard. Like if you like to do side projects, I'm sure you know, like you also like to abandon them. And I've been really generous here. The ones that I marked with gravestones are projects where when I start projects, I always have like some hope and expectation for it, right? And the ones that I did not mark with a gravestone are the ones where I, at least to some extent, got some satisfaction out of those expectations. Like they're maybe not even finished or like shareable, or I could probably not demonstrate most of them to you, but at least they scratched the itch that I had when I started the project. Like I learned something, and now I know why I should not do this project, or why, like what it would take to do something in the future. And the reason I'm showing you this is actually, you can't really see it from the screenshot, but if you would mark all the projects with like how long I would think the project would take at the start of the project, and you would like mark like highlight specifically the ones that I was like at the start already thinking this is going to take at least a month, maybe even significantly longer. None of those projects survived. Like none of those projects got a satisfying ending. There's like one project here. Chester is still active. Like I've been working on that for a long time. And like this one still could be abandoned basically. And then there's one project here that I spent like a good summer on, like a project about seashells, and that is like the exception to the rule. But all the other projects, it's not like I didn't do long projects, but they all, yeah, at some point they became less fun, and I left them to do something else. And so when I started to realize this, I told myself, well, you know what? I'm just not gonna do a project if I think it's going to take me more than a weekend. Like if I have an idea and I think about it and I'm like, this is going to take me several weeks, I'm just like, I'll just throw it out, and I'm just not even gonna start it. And of course, this is also a big limitation. But again, I feel like I do gain a lot from it. And it specifically shapes my project, I think, both before starting the project and then also in the way that I finish them. So let's take a look at that. So if you would somehow be able to put a camera into my brain right now, like what it would look like is actually this. Or like, okay, maybe it's more like this. Like just a bunch of bad ideas bouncing around in there. It's a bit unfortunate that these line up, but one of them says infinite Sudoku. The other one is Snake and Wordle. Um, and I think I've told Torian once that like I have many bad ideas, and I think I've told Torian once that I could give him $1 million idea every day if he would like to lose $1 million. And so what I started doing when I like became more discerning about which projects I would do, like when I started only doing projects that were really small, is any project, even if I thought immediately like this is a great idea, I just let it bounce around in my head for a while. So for example, Snakel, I don't remember what I was doing, but I was doing something and suddenly in my head, the word Snakel pops up. And to me, like that just inherently was really funny. Like it's just a silly word. And the idea of like a game that is both Snake and Wordle seemed so silly to me that I really wanted to try it. And but I didn't immediately jump into the project. I let the project, the idea bounce around in my head. And the first step is like figuring out, okay, well, what does that actually mean? Because like it's not necessarily obvious what Snake and Wordle, like how you would play them at the same time, right? And so I think about it, and then at some point I also start to think about like how would I actually do this from a technical view. Like I have a pretty limited tool set, right? With the limited tools, do I think I can do this, or would I need something else? Would I have to like? Would it be necessary to use some kind of library or external tools? I try to answer those questions, and I actually often try to come up with a pretty good plan. Like, okay, I think I know how Snakel would work. I think I know the tools that I would need to use them to do this. And I think actually I just need to do like these, and these steps, and then I would have the basic idea of Snakel working. And uh, I get to a point like with Snakel, I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I bet myself that if I sit down for 4 hours, I can have this working. And that is a great point to be at because that is really motivational. Like I've been asked, like, how do you make time for side projects? Like, how do you do more programming after work? That seems so exhausting. And like, I think the obvious answer is like, just watch less Netflix, right? But that is not really a satisfying answer because I also watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix and whatever. But I think for me, the trick is like, if I just sit down for 4 hours, I will have something satisfying at the end. It becomes much easier to put down like Netflix or whatever, even after a work day. Like I think Snakel I did on a Thursday. I sat down after work and I just worked on it. So that's where the second point comes up. Like, okay, working on it now. It's coming together. I think everyone who does side projects knows that if you start a project, like immediately when you start a project, like a million new ideas pop up in your brain, right? Like you can add better graphics, you can make it more interesting. But I actually also really like finishing stuff. So uh, how do I figure out like what to add and what not to add? Um, and I'm just really rigorous there. As soon as I have something that starts to kind of work, um, like the next priority is like, okay, if I would send this to a friend now, like if I would share this with friends right now, like what are like the very minimal things that I would like to add before I do that. And I just force myself to, in that same weekend, like add those things. And so usually like for projects like Snake-Hole, that means like, of course, like controls must work, but I like to at least also add touch controls if it's not like too impossible. It should work on mobile. It should look kind of fun. Like I know I can't do the best graphics in a weekend, but I should be able to do something. And stuff like tracking your high score and stuff, like those are the minimum features. And so the first day, Snake-Hole, 4 hours, I got it roughly working. And the day after, I came back and I did a second pass just to get those minimal features in. And I tell myself, like, okay, all these other ideas, I can always come back. Like next weekend, I can just come back. I can do, I don't know, like better levels for Snake-Hole or whatever. But in practice, I just never do it, right? Like at this point, I abandoned the project, but I got out of it what I wanted. And at some point, I actually uh, like I like to make this comparison. Um, if you've heard of the game Tetris 99, it's a game for the Switch. I to be honest, I haven't played it, but it seems really fun. It is basically multiplayer Tetris. It has very good reviews. It's pretty popular. But conceptually, it is just Tetris with like a fun little twist, kind of like the games that I like to make. I've built several Tetris clones. I know like a basic like prototype of this game should take you maybe a day to finish, maybe 2 days. If you've practiced this stuff, like it should take you a weekend at most, right? But then, like, if you look at the credits for Tetris 99, that's like there are so many people working on a game like this. Even on a game this small, you still need a whole team of people. And of course, like this screenshot is a little bit like half of these people are localization, but still, like there's artists, there's like sound designers, there's a whole programming team. And for Snake-Hole, it is just me. And so this, for me, just really drove home the point that if I want to have a finished project, like to any like whatever finished means, like I need to make that a priority because I can literally come up with like ideas to spend six people worth of developer time full time for a year on something like Snake-Hole and find things to spend the time on. Like I can be working on that for a decade and still come up with like new ideas. The only way to finish a project like that is to like make finishing it a really big priority. And so that's what I do. And I do want to like make clear, like I'm not comparing myself to Tetris like 99. Like I know that Tetris 99 is by far the better game. Like it is way more fun than Snake-Hole. Like Snake-Hole, to be honest, really is not that fun of a game. I don't recommend playing it. But I think like the point of making Snake-Hole wasn't to make a fun game. The point was for me to have like a fun afternoon, a fun weekend, and maybe also like a little bit to make the joke of Snake-Hole. Like I still like to ask people like, hey, do you want to play Wordle but also Snake? I think that's funny. But so like yeah, for me, it's important to get those priorities straight. Like I know that making a good game, I'll just never like. I'm not saying like I can never do that, but it just takes a whole different level of effort than like any side project I'm willing to do right now. Um, yeah, so um, pulling back to pun-driven development, I shared some like principles that I apply to side projects. And really, both of them are actually about the same thing. They're about like drastically lowering the barrier to doing a side project, to like making it as cheap as possible, both in terms of like the resources that I need to do a side project and also the time investment that I need to do a side project. And I found that if you do that this drastically, like if you make side projects like all you need to have to do a side project is like a few hours of spare time. That also means then that it is a really small commitment to do a side project. And that means that you can just follow bad ideas. Like I didn't follow Snake because I thought it was a good idea. I followed it because I thought it was funny. And it, like once my projects got smaller, I now like to do, or I do more projects where I know the idea isn't good, but I'll still have fun doing it. So pun-driven development is more about being able to pursue ideas that are bad, and not because they will be one day like good for your resume or good for like solving a real problem or like any of those metrics. Like those, I think for a side project do not have to be important. Um, yeah. So finally, like one more thing. Of course, like I have these principles for myself, but they're not supposed to be like a side project prison, right? Uh, like it's not like I cannot do like it is illegal for me to use TypeScript. But I do really, when I start a project, I really think about like, is this worth it? Like in that phase of like ideas bouncing around in my head, I just ask myself like, okay, do I need a tool to do this? And if so, like, is that worth it to me? And often it turns out like, okay, if that is, if I need something, well, I just don't really feel like doing it. Exceptions for example are like sometimes I do really want to do a small project where I do some 3D graphics, and 3D graphics I can do by myself. They're kind of a pain, so I do end up like using something like 3JS. Um, so yeah, like that is one view. The other is like uh, as I said, I do longer projects, and it's the same. Like I ask myself, okay, if this is going to be a longer project, do I want to start it? Is the project worth it to me? Um, Even if I know I will probably abandon it. Um, and sometimes it is. Sometimes it's because like I want to work with the people on that project, like often with Torian. Sometimes like the project that I am kind of still working on, um, like I have this project where I thought like one time in my life I would like to make a game that is like to a commercial standard and like released and actually fun to play. And so this project I've been working on for a long time, like several years now. And there is a risk to that I won't finish it, but like I've accepted that. Like that is like if I ever want to do this, I know I have to take that risk. And I did very consciously choose a lot of restrictions for myself, like specifically as you can see, it is like pure black and white pixel art, because I know that if I limit the art style, then that is the biggest chance that it will actually finish this project. Yeah, I think those are my main points for this presentation. I think the last thing is I think a lot about how I do side projects. And to me, that is has proven valuable. And so I think maybe I'm not saying that other people should follow in my footsteps in terms of taking these drastic limitations for your own projects, but it is worth thinking about what does it mean for you to have fun in a side project. And yeah, I'm curious if other people think about that.